So hey, in this video I'm going to try and sell you on the concept of philosophy. I promise it's more interesting than they want you to think. People often seem to misunderstand what philosophy is, which is quite annoying. It's not a fancy word for an ideology, nor does it just mean thinking, although its name, which translates to love of thinking, may imply so. What it actually means is when one thinks using logic. Logic, in turn, being when you use rationality to identify the truth. Rationality being when something is done for a reason, in this case specifically, when you believe something for a reason. For example, as an animal, I enjoy ingesting the chemicals present in Nutella. Therefore, I enjoy eating Nutella and products that contain Nutella. Okay, now, that sentence has two parts. The first one is this. I, as an animal, am biologically programmed to enjoy ingesting chemicals that are present in Nutella. That part is called a point, and it has a second part, this. Thus, I like eating Nutella and stuff which contains Nutella. And that part is called the conclusion. Okay? And when you put a point, or points, and the conclusion together, you form a sentence which is called an argument. Now, having points and a conclusion doesn't necessarily mean I'm right. For instance, someone might have a counter-argument, i.e. an argument that disproves one of my points, or that my points lead to my conclusion. For instance, you might say that, but Amelia, you're not an animal, you're a human. To which I'd say, well, you see, humans are a type of animal, and I'd also say that's the case, that you could just take my initial argument and replace the word animal with human and it functionally changes nothing, but besides the point. Okay, so right, you get that, right? Good. Another way I could be wrong is that my argument could be an invalid argument. For instance, if I was to say, deciduous trees shed their leaves in the winter, therefore you should subscribe to Lucky Otter's soapbox. Although the fact that deciduous trees do in fact shed their leaves in the winter, and despite the fact that that's true, that fact does not mean you should subscribe to my channel, albeit that is true for other reasons, which I won't get into because I'm in the middle of explaining other things right now, okay? In fact, a very common type of counter-argument is basically just pointing out that someone's argument is an invalid argument. Okay, so now it's time to explain the fallacies. Basically, these are a very common type of logical error, so common that they're given names and classified. For instance, the ad hominem fallacy. That's when basically you make an argument about the person, like, someone makes a good point, then you say, but you're stupid. The problem with this is it doesn't change anything about their point. Or the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, more commonly called a post hoc fallacy, or even just a post hoc, aka when you say something happened because of something else, because the other thing happened, then the other thing happened. I should have assigned these names like thing A, thing B. Ugh, fuck it. But basically, the problem with this is it's possible for something to happen before something else happens without being the thing that caused it. For instance, I'm just about to drop a pencil on the screen that was telling the truth. But the pencil landed on the screen because I opened up my hand, not because I said I was going to drop it on the screen. There's also a hasty generalization fallacy, which is basically when you say, oh, one or two of these things also have this trait, therefore all of this thing has that trait. Like, for instance, these couple beads all the beads on this little chain thing I have are either green, or not green, are either blue, pink, or white. Now, I'd be doing a hasty generalization fallacy if I said, all the beads I can see here are pink, blue, or white, therefore all beads are pink, blue, or white. People do shit like that surprisingly often. So, next up is the cherry-picking fallacy. This is basically when someone only takes into account certain pieces of information that to support their conclusion and ignores everything else. And lastly, I'm going to bring up the whole set that is the various appeal fallacies. The most common type of this is the appeal to authority fallacy. Basically, This person's an authority, whether that be someone who has a high status in society or someone who's like your boss or your parent or a teacher. They're basically like, I'm the authority, so I'm right. That's a fallacy. But there's also some related fallacies, like the appeal to nature fallacy, which is basically when you say something is natural, therefore it's how things should be. There's a whole bunch of fallacies related to the appeal to authority fallacy like that. So yeah. Ooh, I forgot to actually mention the problem with the appeal fallacies. Basically, the problem with all of them is it's possible for someone who's in a position of authority over someone else to be wrong. Anyone can be wrong, you know? And also, again, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's better, etc. So yeah, I forgot to mention that. It's very important. I mean, I also failed to mention why the cherry-picking fallacy is wrong, but I feel that's, for lack of a better term, more self-evident. I mean, you're literally just ignoring evidence because of bias in that case. Do I have to explain that? And that there, in no particular order, is the top 5 most common fallacies. Now, bear in mind that literally thousands of these things are classified, so there's no way I could go over them all here. And if you ever hear someone refer to one that you've never heard of, just ask what it is and what the problem with it as a line of reasoning is. It's very simple to learn, plus it's also like making sure they know what they're doing and not pulling any shit out of their ass, which is good. But yeah, the thing with fallacies is there's as lines of reasoning is they initially seem reasonable and logical until you realize the problem with them. So yeah. Okay, so on to the next section of the video. So now I'm going to talk about something actually which I brought up before in a previous video, i.e. Occam's razor. Many say that Occam's razor is a very easy tool to cut yourself with, but here's the thing, that only happens if you don't know how to use it. If you know how to use Occam's razor, then you will never experience any damage from it. Basically, the way Occam's razor actually works is, look. Okay, so I need a moment to think about this, fuck. Loading! So, as established before, using logic is basically just believing what it is rational to believe is true, right? And that means having a reason to believe something is true, okay? So that's all been established, right? But sometimes you need to come to a conclusion, or simply just want to, but you don't have any reason to believe anything in particular. In that case, what you do is you believe the thing you have the least reasons not to believe. An example I'll lift from that video is, there's no reason to directly believe God does or doesn't exist. There's no evidence either way. However, it's simpler for the universe to exist for no reason than for the universe, not the universe, than for God to exist for no reason, and then have created the universe. Oh, here's another thing that it's important to mention. There's something that you could consider a fallacy, could consider not a fallacy. It's kind of just a thing to take into consideration, and it's this, a false dichotomy. Basically, it's when someone says, would you rather have this thing or this thing? It's like, and the way they say it implies that you can only have one of those two things, but most of the time, you could do something that is neither of those two things. Quite often, people will do this. It basically is a bad faith tactic to make it so you only think about those two things, because they want one of those two things, but they know you'll want to try and go for something else, which is better. It's a thing to be aware of. I think my visual explains it better than words can. Got it? Now on to the final section of this video. So, now it's time to explain a really important analogy, Plato's cave. Actually, no, I think I have a better example that explains the concept in a simpler way and has less, plot holes in it, albeit it's not completely devoid of plot holes. Okay, so let me talk about The Matrix. So, for those of you who haven't heard, The Matrix is a series of films where the character of Neo first lives in a normal world and exists. Then some people come along and they basically give him the red pill. He eats it, and it causes him to wake up and realize that he's been living his entire life inside a computer simulation. Then the film revolves around him gradually coming to accept this, and also having what the real world looks like gradually explained to him. And then they all go back into the Matrix repeatedly in a big, long, drawn-out plan to destroy the Matrix and set all the humans free. The thing that's significant is before the rebels came along and set Neo free, he thought that the Matrix was the real world. He was walking about in this completely fake world that's simulating life. Well, they say it's 200 years ago, but given the implications of some things later in the film, I could believe it being millions of years, that it's being millions of years since the 20th century, which is the time that the Matrix simulates. But yeah, it's like, but before he was woken up out of the Matrix, he just thought that was the real world. He was living a lie. Then he's completely shocked upon having been woken up into the real world. They even have to gradually ease him into it because of how much of a shock this is. And then if you were to go up to a random person while in the Matrix later and was to explain this all to them, just dropping it all on them instantly, you're in a fake world made by machines to keep you from so that they can so they can use your body heat for energy, they'd think he's completely crazy, completely insane, and all that. You know? It's like if you've only ever seen a fake world, then you wouldn't know that it's fake, and that's the point of both that and Plato's cave, and that's also why this is very important philosophy. In philosophy, it's very important to question things. Don't take things for granted. Like, for all you know, everything you've always thought was true could be a lie, purposefully or unpurposefully told. Keep that in mind, okay? So, yeah, that's just about everything I learned in S3 philosophy class. All condensed into a YouTube video. Somehow that all came out to under 10 minutes. Fucking hell. Oh well, oh well. It was efficient anyway. I mean, it's not everything. We also learned a bit about the history of individual philosophers as people, as well as went for a couple moral dilemmas, as well as we also watched this film called The Truman Show. Very similar points to The Matrix and Plato's Cave and all that. So on and so forth. But yeah, that's a lot of knowledge. If you watched this video to this point, congratulations, you're good 100 times less stupid than you were before, assuming you didn't already know the information contained within anyway. If you did, then you're just as stupid as you were before. But if you didn't, you're 100 times less stupid than you were before. Well done. So yeah, if you watched this video all the way to the end, then you clearly enjoyed it, so why don't you compensate me for that by hitting the like button? You know, it's kind of cheesy, I know, but unironically, you know, if more people will see it, then eventually more people will see my stuff. I want people to see my stuff. I put time and effort into it. Also, hey, if it goes for long enough, then eventually I might be able to make direct money off of it, so that'd be good. Anyway, and subscribe if you want to see more. That too. As I said earlier. Oh yeah, I forgot earlier. I about the whole thing of the subscribe thing. The reason why you should subscribe is because hey, if you watch this far into the video, you clearly like what you're seeing. So hit subscribe if you if you want to see more. Assuming you like it, I'm assuming you'd want to see more. So if it's the case that you want to see more, hit the subscribe button so you get shown more. Hitting the like button also does that. Okay, I'm gonna stop with the self promo. All right. So yeah, this whole video went pretty smoothly. I initially started making it because just so that it exists before I make another video that kind of builds off the ideas in it a bit. I mean, these ideas aren't exactly original ideas. They're kind of thousands of years old, but they're still relevant. Depressingly few people are familiar with them. So yeah, that's good. But as I was this this is the second week of weekly uploads, and I would have got it out on the actual Tuesday intended to get it out on if it wasn't for the fact that iMovie was being all weird. Seriously, when I was trying to slide about okay, if you've never used the iPad version of iMovie, this is gonna make no sense, so fuck it. But fucking ice physics, the worst kind of ice physics, when trying to increase and decrease the length of a clip, it was the most annoying shit. General lag everywhere. It was unusable. So yeah, but oh well, it's a thing, it's happened. Hopefully folks enjoy this. Oh, also, my shirt on Hogwarts Legacy, that's popping the fuck off. I wouldn't be surprised if this got a couple of views from that, and also the new Deltarune Undertale shorts. So yeah, I'm very happy with how that's going. I like attracting clouds. This is no joke, this is some serious momentum, so that's all really, really cool, eh? That's good. I hope I have an idea for something in a similar vein soon, because then I can make a third short in the same vein, and then it can pop off too. Eh? Anyway, peace. Get out of here.